Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander. That is Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got a really small Thursday baseball slate for you guys. Bunch of off days here. What do we got? 4 total games on the slate, I believe. And one of them is a little bit earlier in the day with the Yanks taken off in a day game there. So we're going to be mostly focused, I believe, on the other ones here. But I do want to let you know that it was a good idea to tail us on Wednesday night as we went 5-1. Got you about 3.5 units on the night between the 6 or 5 bets that we made here combined. So looking pretty good as we move forward. Had a really good week so far. Definitely up about 4.5 units now over the last week and a half or so since the middle of last week. So feeling pretty good about this streak, and we'll keep it going for you here. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Use that odds finder tool that we have up there for the MLB. You can make sure that you're getting the best value on all these bets you're making in baseball this season. Nate, let's go ahead and run right into the game that I think everyone's most interested in talking about, Powerhouse Dodgers versus Powerhouse Bravos.
Yeah, it's a nice standalone game here for the MLB, almost like a NFL schedule that you get the 2 hottest teams in the NL going. And this is the one I want to concentrate on. I want to concentrate on basically fading Lance Lynn. There's a lot of ways to do that here. I'm going to say he gives up over 5.5 hits, which is even money, and I would put at least 1.5 units on that. Or maybe you want to spread out your units in terms of him giving up over 2.5 earned, in terms of him not going 6 innings, which is where his outs prop is at. But look, Lynn has made 5 starts for the Dodgers and been great. He's been revitalized after having a 6.5 ERA for the White Sox, where they were going absolutely nowhere. But I don't think I'm really buying it that, this aging pitcher is suddenly lights out. The 3 home starts he's had, you could not ask for a better matchup against the A's, Rockies, and the Brewers. And the swinging strike data is still not that impressive. He's always been a guy who kind of depends on just, blowing fastballs by people, spotting his fastball. Really troubling data against lefties and really troubling launch angle data in general. I mean, on the season, we're talking nearly a 20% home run to fly ball ratio and 10% barrel. And that's really been the case for the last 4 years for Lynn, who will just leave fastballs in the heart of the plate. Exactly what you don't want to do against the Atlanta Braves, who have the best home run to fly ball ratio in the majors and the best rating by far against fastballs, plus 85 runs above average on the season. Lynn throws a fastball about 60% of the time. Most pitchers will just try to avoid the zone against Atlanta because they are just so dangerous, but I don't think that's really Lynn's style either. He does like to pound the zone. We're talking about a Braves offense that was cold for a little bit, but just got 55 hits in 3 games at Coors. Granted, that's at Coors and against the Rockies staff, but I mean, they're now hitting 291 on the road since the All-Star break. That's an average of 10.5 hits per game. Lynn has been out there for a lot of innings. So that is why I think I kind of like this more than saying he's going to go under 6 innings. I do still have some confidence in that, but he's fresh off allowing 10 hits against Boston. 5 guys got at least 2 hits against him. I mean, certain guys are just going to have a lot of success against Lynn because you know what's coming. And you've timed him up, and he hasn't really faced a lot of these younger stud hitters for the Braves, right? Like 3 at-bats in their career for Acuna, Albies, and Austin Riley. So, I mean, those guys, as they see him a little bit more, I think they're going to be all over him. And I think the Braves 6 hits off this guy pretty easily in the first 5 innings here.
Yeah, I think he's liable to go the 5 at least, and probably 6 at this point for big old Lance Lynn. It's similar to how we bet the Bravos last night in fading Kyle Freeland with runs, not necessarily innings. He went all the way past the 5th. And then the same thing could be said tonight, I think, for Lynn. Also, shout out Ozzie Albies getting us over 2.5 total bases on 3 singles. 3 for 5. Not how we expected to get it, but we'll take it for sure. So I'm going to continue to just stick to this game for a second and talk about my bet in this one, which is Ronald Acuna Jr. specifically. I'm taking him to get over 1.5 total bases, and I can get even money on that. he's not a bad pick for a home run tonight, to be honest. One of his 2 hits in those 3 at bats that he's taken, that he's faced Lance Lynn, he took him deep. So I would feel pretty good about Acuna getting around 2 bases here, at least with maybe a double. Couple hits is not out of the realm of possibility either. You do get plus money for him to get 2 hits. You're all the way down to minus 290 for him to just get 1 hit, which is a really odd line set there. Where we're just, why would I ever take the 1 over 1 hit? Why do you even offer it at minus 290 if you're all the way up to like plus 110 on the 2 hits? It's just a weird disparity. But that's why I'm attacking total bases, because I can get even money on DraftKings there for him to get 2 with that even money for 1 unit. He is back to tearing the cover off the ball. If Mookie Betts wasn't literally, better than Babe Ruth at this point, Babe Ruth with Jackie Robinson's speed, like he's just out of control right now, which is why Ronald Acuna Jr. has fallen in that MVP spot. But it's not like he's been a slouch either. He has not given this award away. Mookie Betts is coming in just completely taking it. In August, he's batting .339. He's got 5 dingers in that time as well, which is good for second most of any month this year, because Matt Olson's had 6 already in a month. But the 8 of 9 games, 8 of the last 9, he's gotten a hit in. In 10 of the last 12 that he's played, he's gotten at least 2 total bases. So, even when he's gotten just the 1 hit, there's been 3 games where he's gotten 1 hit. There was 2 doubles and a triple in there, so he's still getting the total bases because he can always do that. If I were going to take him for a home run, I'd probably just take him first home run in the game and double the juice on that type of bet. But I think there's plenty of reasons to feel like he's going to be able to hit Lance Lynn. You mentioned the way that Lance Lynn pitches. Mostly the cutter and the fastball. Acuna top 5 this year in expected outcome when he faces a fastball, and top 5 versus the slider. Not that dissimilar from a cutter, where he's in the top 85th percentile in expected outcome when he's at bat, and he has thrown a cutter, rather, which is Lance Lynn's second favorite pitch. So I think there's a reason he's 2 for 3. I think there's a reason he's top 2 in MVP, obviously voting for the NL, and I think this is a good game to get him 2 total bases.
Yeah, I wanted to see if there was like a team prop for the Braves homers here, because I think somebody's taking Lance Lynn deep. When you look at the fact that lefties have a 2.5 home run per 9 ratio off him. You mentioned Matt Olson being hot. Doesn't have great BVP data against Lynn, but could easily fix that here. And I think Eddie Rosario is a guy I would look at for the home run prop, anytime homer. I think both those guys could go deep off him. And of course, Acuna is great in righty-righty matchups and could get to this guy. So that's the game we're most interested in, and we're putting most of our units on. I know we're both looking at this Nats Marlins game is basically the only other show in town. The Giants haven't even officially named a starter here, so that's the other game tonight. Joanna Don for the Nats and Braxton Garrett, they happened to pitch against each other just 6 days ago, and it was a pretty low-scoring game. I'm going to try to ride that trend again and say the first 5 is under 4.5 runs, even money, and I will say only go a half unit on this because we are talking about 2 young pitchers with very limited sample sizes, especially Adon, who's, he has a 9.9 ERA in just 10 innings at home this year. But he is holding righties to a 143 average and 222 WOBA. In the minors, he had really good numbers as soon as he got ahead in the count. So I think there's a reason he had some success in his last start against the Marlins, where he did go 6 scoreless, only gave up 3 hits, only allowed 1 barrel. The high launch angle is less of a concern here at Nats Park. It wasn't a concern in Marlins Park at all, but Nats Park's still pretty big in the outfield there. And it's really more about the Marlins offense, right? That they let you get ahead in the count. They chase out of the zone. They are 28th in walk rate, 27th in weighted runs created, and 29th in line drive rate in this month. So, this is more about fading both offenses and having some faith in Braxton Garrett, who's right, the 7th overall pick a few years ago, has plenty of talent, has been better on the road for whatever that means. The concern here is that he gives up like a 46% hard contact rate to righties, but somehow they're only hitting 230 off him. Good infielders behind him. That's a factor for sure. He is going to give up some contact, but I mean, the Nats, their MO, which we always talk about, is they're not going to strike out. They're just going to put the ball in play, see what happens. They have the highest zone contact rate in the majors, and some of that can play into your hands if you're just going to look to get some easy outs, get guys swinging early in the count, get it in play, and hope your fielders take care of you behind you. And I think that's why the Marlins are a team that does trend under, because they have great infielders. And why Garrett can, sort of replicate some success. He gave up 3 earned in this August 25th start. He's been all right in his last 5, despite facing, 3 of the most dangerous lineups for a lefty: Phillies, Astros, Dodgers. Navigated them. I think seeing the Nats again, he might be a little prepared for what they bring to the table. And I don't think that this young lineup of the Nats is going to be that much better against him. So I just don't think there's going to be a lot of runs here early on.
That's fine. I'm not totally against you on this, but I'm not in full agreement either, because I do want to fade Garrett a little bit, and I want to do that by taking Washington over 3.5 runs in this game total, -115, and put a unit on that. And I also want to take under strikeouts for Garrett at under 4.5. Little bit. I love the under 5.5, man. I was so ready to pounce on under 5.5. At under 4.5 for -108 on FanDuel, though, I'll still take it. 0.7 units. You mentioned he's facing some good lineups, and that's definitely fair. When he's faced some bad lineups, he's had a bit more success, unsurprisingly, including like Colorado. But at the same time, this Washington Nationals team is so pesky and annoying. And by the way, has the same record as the San Diego Padres. I tweeted that out earlier. They've been hovering around the same record as them forever. I think the Padres payroll is 3 times as much as the Nationals payroll right now. So that is a hilarious statistic to me. Says a lot about the Pods, but I think it says a lot about the Nationals too, because they're a team that is just hard to get rid of because they don't strike out. And that's my favorite reason for continuing to find lefty versus Nats bats matchups and taking the Nats to not strike out against pitchers that, like Garrett, has some decent strikeout numbers against certain teams. I mean, you mentioned the tough outings lately. He has gone under in 3 of his last 4. He had 6 Ks in that one against the Rockies, like I mentioned. So that's whatever you want to do with that. I think when he faces a lineup that's striking out at a rate of 16.5% against lefties in the month of August, that is easily the best in the majors right now. They are not striking out at all. It's very difficult to get them out with those lefty bats. You mentioned that those numbers for Garrett in terms of what's happening on his pitches there and the expected outcome. A 47.7% hard hit rate is absurd for sure. Those are some bad numbers. There's a reason that his expected numbers are bloated, and it's really like time for some of that regression wants to come and hit Braxton Garrett. I think the 3.7 ERA he had in the first half, much better than the 4.5 ERA he's had in the second half of the season since the break. He's got the 8% barrel rate with that 48% hard hit rate, and that's what I'd be scared of, is like they're going to get bats on it, and I think they're going to be able to get around and get the 4 runs they need in this game. Like you said, they just had 3 earned on 7 hits against him, including a homer. He was only able to get the 3 Ks in this most recent matchup, and I think the runs are still viable for Washington, even if they get 2 or 3, even if they just get 2 off of Garrett before they make him leave. This bullpen for Miami has been in the bottom half for sure in August, and hasn't really been good in a while. That's why they got David Robertson, and then they benched David Robertson, and they need a new closer again because their bullpen has been struggling so mightily, and that's why they've given up that 4.5, worse than 4.5 xFIP over the month, and like I said, those Washington bats not striking out. They are back into the top half of the league against lefties in terms of actually scoring runs as well, back in the WRC plus and batting average, slugging, all in the top half of the league against lefties in August. So I wanted to take the Nats at plus 144. Everything in this matchup just told me just sprinkle a little bit on the dog. But because there's only a couple games too, I wanted to split. I wanted to get a couple bets in these games and find a way to make sure I at least come out positive on a really small baseball slate.
Yeah, I mean, both things can be true in terms of Garrett not getting 4 strikeouts and still navigating 6 innings without much damage, because that is what we expect from the Nats is to not be an explosive offense, but also not strike out. So I think we are in agreement there. I like what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. In terms of the Marlins being the bullpen being awful, them having like a terrible losing streak at the moment, maybe we just want to say Nats plus 144. That seems like good juice. That seems like better than them scoring 4 runs. Is just to back them. They've been pretty good lately, and yeah, I think the Marlins are fading out of this one. So I would look at that, you guys, and consider maybe the parlay Nats and Braves money line, because we obviously like the Braves with Spencer Strider. If we're fading Lance Lynn in all these different ways, so would look at that on a short slate here if you're trying to combo the games.
I would take a little sprinkle on that. Yohan Adon scares the crap out of me. He is not ready for the big leagues for sure. A good thing the Marlins bats have been so quiet for sure, because that would scare me a ton. But yeah, in this matchup with the righty coming in, we just saw Aaron Savali, much better pitcher than Yohan Adon right now, but we saw Savali able to handle them. So I'm not trashing or poo-pooing fully you're under 4.5 in the first 5, but we're going to need Yohan Adon to hold his weight for even like 3 or 4 innings if he can. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. We'll look to stay super hot on a weird Thursday baseball slate for you, coming back with a full one on Friday as well. So until we see you next, happy betting.